Oh, it says, oh,
Yep.
we are in the webinar.
Yeah, the backstage thing is new for me. So
Yes, yes. We're still getting used to it. 2 days, almost 2 days into the summit, we're still getting used to it. But welcome, everyone. Glad you could join us this afternoon. As people filter in, we're gonna just start to get started. Excuse me, we're gonna get started. And I'll just share a few brief remarks before I turn it over to our presenter. So we are here at the summit, which is Health Equity and Action, Libraries, Communities, Opportunities. This summit is hosted by the American Library Association Social Responsibilities Roundtable, or SRRT. SRRT believes that libraries and librarians must center social responsibility by recognizing and helping to solve social problems and inequities to work for the common good. My name is Rachel Rosekind. I'll be moderating the session. I use she, her pronouns, and I'm joined by my colleagues Olivia Blake and Kim Krutka, who will be helping out with chat and text. If you would like to enable captions, you can click on more in the bottom right of the screen, then click show captions. Our session today will be recorded, and the recording will be available on our website within the next few weeks. This session focuses on the transformation of Ukrainian public libraries into mental health hubs during war. And we are joined by Ulia Gosart, who is an assistant professor at the School of Information, San Jose State University. Since 2022, she's been advocating for peace in Ukraine through fundraising, thematic symposia, traveling exhibits, and publishing. She's appeared in the media and published in Library Journal, Public Library Quarterly, the IFLA Journal, and other sources. She graduated from the Kiev State University of Culture and Art, and her PhD is from UCLA. After Ulia concludes her presentation, we'll be taking questions from the audience. You do not need to wait until after she concludes to pop your questions into the Q&A function. You can do so as we go along. So I will now turn it over to Ulia for her presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, Rachel. Thank you, everyone who joined us. Thank you, Rachel, for inviting me. I will start screen share to start the presentation. So the topic of the presentation is public librarianship as mental health club during the war in Ukraine. And before we start, I'd like us to take a brief moment of silence to remember those who had fallen to this war since full-scale invasion began in 2022. Since the start of the full-scale invasion, that's been compared by the scope of the war as the second largest after the World War II war in the past 100 years. Casualties had been extraordinary, particularly military casualties. The numbers that I'm sharing with you are quite, they're not as high as that they could be, with Russia losing over 1 million soldiers and Ukraine also experiencing heavy losses. Civilian casualties have also been quite high. With the war continued to go on, if we look at the political violence events map on the left, the blue circles indicate incidents of explosions, primarily attacks by the drones. And for that week alone, 53 registered fatalities from civilian targeting had taken place in Ukraine. Living under war conditions is extremely difficult. Tatiana Svatula is one of my colleagues. She is in Kherson city. Half of the Kherson region is still under occupation. And we've been working together since 2022. And recently, our fundraiser helped her to start renewing the collection for the blinds. And she was able to buy books for the blind kids who she serves in Kherson, and she did not respond to my telephone calls and my emails. And then this is what she wrote: "It's been a nightmare. Number of drones have increased several-fold. It's particularly impossible to get around the city. They're targeting minibuses, cars, even ordinary residents. For the third day in a row, we've been under artillery fire. Every day there are large numbers of dead and wounded." Marina Sokolova is another colleague. She's a children librarian from Kiev region, and on the top we see her evacuated with her daughter during the time in February when their building caught on fire. And on the bottom, it's a very recent picture. She's with the kids in her library, are relaxing, doing some of the Japanese art painting, which they mastered as a part of the art therapy. "I often wonder," she said in our recent conversation, "how it is possible that someone can just attack another peaceful country. But it turns out that life goes on even during the war. Every time after heavy shelling, we call each other to find out if everyone is alive. I'm very afraid for the future of children and young people. My heart is filled with despair and the feeling that this world has gone mad. Grateful to our girls and boys who defend our land and give us the opportunity to wake up every morning." Mental health across Ukraine has been one of the biggest health issues. And we are looking at recent information from the All Ukrainian Mental Health Program, How Are You, led by the First Lady of Ukraine, with the respondents indicating over 80% of the respondents indicate high level of stress, primarily related to the war. And some of the core issues that that people indicated as their concern are related to the safety of loved ones, risk of life and potential injuries, as well as losses of sources of income. Symptoms that people indicated range from anxiety and tension to irritability or anger and emotional instability, with some of the most vulnerable groups being military personnel, people who lost loved ones, civilians in the combat zones, and people who lived under occupation. Another interesting data from that survey is related to the sources of trust that people indicated. And some of the most sources are, of course, help of professional psychologists and psychiatrists, remote and personal ones, as well as experiences of people who overcame mental health challenges, as well as materials that had been created by Ukrainian organizations of mental health, international and Ukrainian. Librarians had been part of this all-state initiative since it started at the beginning of the war. And they also have been doing their own investigations. And I was excited to see the very recent one where they worked with the local government representatives, asking how library can address challenges of the communities. And as you can see, psychological stress as well as social adaptation of vulnerable populations had been some of the main challenges that the local government representatives indicated, which tells us that not only librarians consider their role as mental health hubs in Ukraine today, but also local governments consider libraries as spaces where people can find mental and emotional health support, but also as settings where professionals who can give this kind of help work, meaning that they see public librarians as social workers, really, as well as those who can relieve stress. So how do librarians do that? Well, recently, in response to the incredible need for librarians to get training, libraries as a space for psychological support, again, all state initiative took place with the year of 24-25. Training had been engage in librarians from multiple regions, and these librarians come primarily from large regional libraries to go back to the regions and train their colleagues. Topics of the trainings range from turning the library into the comfortable space and safe space to different ways of engaging creativity, like art therapy, for example, as well as learning about methods of psychological support and as well as first aid support that librarians can help. They created a book, Psychological Support in the Libraries, as well as an online training course that librarians can take for free to be able to provide these services in their communities and in their libraries more or less professionally. And on the right, I'm just sharing some of the recent initiative. This one comes from Chizhevsky Regional Library, working with veterans. Kirovograd region, it's a central part of Ukraine, where veterans came to the library just to relax and to adapt or spend time with little kittens. And cats are very well loved in Ukraine to a degree that when military comes to liberate this city, the soldiers are called our kittens. On the bottom, we see the initiative from Chernigiv region. Chernigiv is a borderline city where librarians last summer went out in the street and offered to community members materials on how to support their mental health conditions. Because one of the challenges that librarians, not only librarians, but health professionals likewise face is people who experience mental illnesses not seeking help. So librarians went out and offered help to the people who they met on the streets just to be able to tell them about what's available in the library, but also allowed people to share their issues with the librarians. So initiatives that I'm gonna share are multiple, of course, and given the time period, I'm just kind of will give you a little bit of everything, but those initiatives that I'm sharing are those that had been reported and those that had been quite prominent. There are multiple initiatives that continue to take place in the libraries that have lesser support or do not publish about those initiatives, but I just wanted to stress that library providing mental and emotional support, as well as ways for people to adapt to new realities, those who had been displaced, is taking place across public libraries in Ukraine. So we'll start with bibliotherapy, which has been something that Ukrainian librarians practiced before the war, but something that became really full-fledged set of initiatives across different public libraries. And for example, on the bottom, we see initiative that took place very recently across Kiev, which is capital, with bibliotherapy meetings happening during blackouts months, during 3 months in the library. Blackouts happened not only because of the attacks on the city, and Kiev had been targeted since the beginning of the war, but also because of the electricity switch, where people don't have power for a few hours. That's been a practice quite common during the war, but the last year, because of the attacks on the infrastructures, had been quite powerful. It's been a lot. It's been a very difficult winter. So in Kiev, Libraries Without Borders provided support to Ukrainian Library Association for people to come to the libraries during these dark hours, not only to spend time with each other, but also to have a book, something that they could use to talk and to enjoy, not to think about what is happening outside. Another initiative that is quite prominent, and it goes back to 2015, is the Library of the Ukrainian Warrior. The war started back with the annexation of Crimea in 2014. It's 2022 marks the full-scale invasion of the country, but since 2015, the initiative brought to the front lines over 160,000 books, which a lot of libraries participate in, but not solely. There are other social institutions and individuals who bring books and deliver books to military personnel at the front lines, in the hospitals, as well as in the military training centers. And we see the picture of the soldiers holding these books. The range of books that soldiers receive is very different, and some of the core books that saved life, were received when the full-scale invasion started, whereas the soldiers learned how to do first aid help to their friends and to the people they fought with. Right here on the top is a very interesting and unusual initiative by Biblioteczna Kraina, which is a foundation in Kiev. It's called Book by the Prescription. So during a book festival, large one in Kiev, librarian was sitting with a psychiatrist, and people who experienced emotional and psychological issues could come, and they both would give a prescription for good books to read so they could relieve their symptoms. And of course, book heals, books for hospitals for veterans and children has also been quite prominent. Children is one of the vulnerable populations, and librarians are very creative. Children librarians are very creative group of people. And the projects that they generated and created had ranged, from the book hills. We see here the librarian working in a hospital, working with the superheroes, children who are in a hospital of Khmelnytsky region. This is the western part from Ukraine. To having different festivals that brings together families and children and librarians, celebrating cultural heritage of Ukraine, as well as celebrating foods and celebrating communities. Something similar we see right here in Kryzhopil village, which is Vinnytsia region, central part of Ukraine, where this is a village library, and we see the librarian and the girls doing traditional bands. So it's not only reading about cultural heritage, but it's also actually practicing and learning about different traditions. Another interesting thing in the Kryzhopil village is that they do not just keep books in the library. They go out and they have summer reading in the parks and in the communities, where children just come and they do different projects, but also offer summer reading outside of the library walls, so the kids could run around and enjoy themselves and just enjoy the good weather. The picture on the bottom captures Dnipro Regional Library for Children. Dnipro is quite close to the front lines, and this is the theater for the displaced children. They work not only with the displaced families, but also families from the occupied region. And the big part of the Dnipro Regional Library for the Children is creating different kind of performances and engaging children, where librarians turn into theater directors and actors as well, and children enjoy it. Here on the right, we see aroma art therapy, which from Ternopil. Ternopil is a western part of Ukraine, where not only they practice art therapy, but that's been quite prominent across Ukraine, when they use coffee to do different projects. As we can see, it's all in some brownish colors because they used coffee. Oh, I'm sorry. Let me. And I'd like us to just kind of see a short video that shows the bibliobus. And bibliobuses are going in the villages that have lost their libraries because of the war or do not have libraries. So to bring books and services to the kids. In certain communities, they use bibliobus. This one, I think, was donated by the Lithuanian colleagues because it's quite expensive to buy a bus and operate it. And we see librarians meeting with the village kids and telling them about the books and inviting them to see what's inside. And just take a moment for us to enjoy it.
We can't see the video. Do you have it queued up? Ulia?
Yulia, we can't see your video. Can you switch screens?
There we go.
Um, Thank you. Sorry about this. So that's been something that that is done in the villages that have no libraries, and children could get the books from the bibliobus as well as do different projects, primarily drawing art projects. These are the pictures from different libraries that turn their spaces into bomb shelters, so children can have a safety place during blackouts and also during the attacks. Right here on the bottom, we see the National Library for the Children in Kiev. It recently actually lost some windows because it got hit by a drone. And this is the basement of the library that they decorated to make it more children friendly, as well as to become a place where not only people sit and read, but also could some performances take place. Right here we see Alexandria, central library for the children, and we see the children, but librarians in front of them are doing a performance for the children to take their mind away from what is happening outside. And this is again the basement that had been transformed into a safe place for children to be. Here on the top, we again see Dnipro Regional Library working with the children during blackouts, and use of candles and use of flashlights had been quite popular. People even make their own candles. Friend of mine, who is also a children librarian, mastered candle making to be able to work with her kids, children who come to her library during blackouts hours. And right here, it's again Kiev, where where a children library local artist came and used her skills to draw fairy tale characters on the walls just to make library more friendly and wonderful place for children to be during difficult hours. Veterans is another vulnerable population that librarians support. And these three pictures come from Rivne Regional Library that's actually championed work with veterans getting a grant because it's quite difficult to support these services. It's expensive. When it comes to books for the blinds, those are incredibly expensive in Ukraine. And here we see librarian working with blind veterans, helping them to learn how to read. Right here on the bottom, librarians is leading blind veterans for a walk. And right here in the middle, we see a librarian teaching a blind veteran how to cook. They turn one of their spaces in the library into the kitchen so they could come and learn and start living their life, independently when they don't have anyone else to take care of them. On the bottom, we see Children Library of Khmelnytsky, and this is quite common to invite veterans to work with the kids. And Secrets of Success, it's been one of the projects that they implemented where the veteran come and meet with the community and the children to tell about, their own stories, to celebrate their experiences, even though the veteran has lost his leg, and also to meet with the kids. Right here on the top, we also have disabled veteran who plays bocce games, which is like a Paralympic game with a kid, as a way to spend time, but also to develop mobility in the hand that's been injured. Art therapy has been very prominent across different vulnerable groups, and we see the veterans in Rivne region, they are laughing and having good time. There was a project of art therapy where they invited only veterans and families of veterans, and the young men are enjoying their time. Like on the bottom, we see art therapy in Dnipro, where we have elderly populations doing different things, women primarily. And right here is the Melitopol Public Library, where they have art projects for the children.
Julia, I just want to interrupt to say we're running short on time and we only have a small break until the next session. And I want to just ask if I know there was a question about sharing resources in the Q&A, and also just see if anyone else had any questions. Otherwise, we can take another few minutes to go through and then have to wrap up the session. But
sure. I have only 2 more slides. I'm just wanted to share how library also serves as a makerspace. Where people come together, create is a very traditional makerspaces we see here in the US, but also servicing as a volunteer hub. Here, volunteers cooking for the army, and here a volunteer group in the library creating camouflage nets and packages for the army that helps people not only to support their communities, but also to share their experiences and feel better about what is happening. And my last slide actually is about what's the future gonna bring. And the future that's come from Ukrainian Library Association stresses on libraries doing wartime adaptation and providing psychological support initiatives. And yes, I'm done. Thank you.
no, it's such a wonderful array of incredible programs, and the librarians going out into the community, people from the community coming into the libraries. It's really just powerful and moving. And we have people asking about wanting to share links to bibliotherapy and the other initiatives in your presentation. And also Kimberly is interested in knowing how they might be able to support these initiatives. So you're welcome to share some of that now. And I also want to say we'll be sharing resources afterwards and putting them up on our website, so people will have an opportunity then.
Sure. I'm just gonna go back to my slide, and here is the initiative that helps to support librarians. And one of the things that we are doing right now is trying again. Here's the Kherson, and people who would like to help, we're collecting to rebuild Kherson Library for the blind. And this is the website where all the initiatives are. And please connect me also through the email. I'd be just able to, to direct you if you want to donate books. During the Ukrainian American Library Association conference in Chicago, we will be collecting books for Ukraine. Aim is 5,000 books, and we work with American Library Association on that as well. Resources, here are some training opportunities, and these training opportunities are all in Ukrainian, but some of those training opportunities actually focus on art therapy as well as different kind of resources. I can share it all. It's just all in Ukrainian. I'm not sure if this is something that is relevant, but there is a whole art therapy and bibliotherapy book that was put together that I can provide links with that librarians use, but there are resources I can share.
Thank you. And as I said, we're happy to take resources. I'll communicate with you afterwards and post them online. And also, if you want to quickly just drop your email into the chat while I'm wrapping up our session, then if it's okay, people can get in touch with you directly as well. So first want to thank you, Ulia, for sharing this incredible presentation with us. And also thanks to everyone who came, and to Olivia and Kim for helping to support this. I do want to quickly wrap up and just say that we depend on these, we rely on donations to support our free programming, which we are very happy to champion. So we encourage you, if you're able to help support through a donation or through joining as a CERT member if you're not already. Kim will put a link in the chat to route you there if you want to take a look. But otherwise, we will be wrapping up this session because we'll be going into our next session on community-based initiatives to bridge health equity gaps. And that will be starting in just about 12 minutes to the nose. And we look forward to seeing you there. So thank you again to everyone for coming.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you for coming.
Yeah, thank you.